Good afternoon, everybody. It is just past 3 p.m. on Thursday, January 18th, and we wanted to hop on here and just kind of give you a quick update as to what we are expecting to happen over the next several hours. Now, to give you the setup of what we've got going on here, we have the cold ground, obviously still lots of snow. You can see that there from our tower camera. And the road temperatures are very cold, but we had sunshine yesterday, and then we had some sunshine this morning. Since then, the clouds have moved back into the area. We did actually make it up to freezing at 12:16 p.m., which means that we were below freezing for about 86 hours. That is not a record, but it is still impressive that we managed to do that. Today has also been our third day in a row with a low in the single digits. The last time we did that was in January of 2014. So talking about how long we've been cold matters because that tells you that the ground temperatures are very chilly. We have some slush, so we have had some melting through the day today. In fact, we have kind of some giant liquid puddles in the middle of some of the snow patches at this point. However, what is coming in now is probably going to freeze when it makes contact with that very cold ground, especially as this moves in once the sun goes down this evening. So currently, cloudy skies, chilly temperatures, 31 degrees in Knoxville, but we have calm winds. And we also have a dew point of 19. So that tells us that we have drier air down near the surface, and we also have that cold layer sitting at the surface that is so dense that any air that we have moving in is going to ride up and over that cold, dense air. That warmer air will ride up and over that, and that's what creates the big question mark when it comes to what type of precipitation we're going to be seeing this afternoon. You can kind of tell that the wind, the air is changing by looking at our temperatures around the rest of the area. Pigeon Forge up to 35, Dandridge you're up to 34, Jamestown up to 36 at this point, but our cold air is socked in, Sweetwater at 29, Spring City at 28, Rockwood at 29 as well. So the way we see things happening as we go through the rest this afternoon with that dense cold air at the surface and then milder air with moisture in it riding up and over that cold air is that the initial precipitation starts falling as snowflakes, but then it melts in that layer of warmer air. The question is, what type of precip will it be when it actually reaches the surface? If it's liquid and it stays liquid all the way to the ground and our surface temperatures are above freezing, you get just regular old rain happening. It's going to fall on the snowpack, but regular old rain happening until later tonight when the temperatures drop a little bit more. Freezing rain would be liquid rain that falls but is super cooled on its way down, and when it contacts those surfaces that are below freezing in those towns that I named that have temperatures currently in the 20s, that liquid will freeze on contact with that surface, and that's what we call freezing rain. That's what creates that glaze of ice, and that can make roads very, very slick. When we talk about sleet, those are the little ice pellets. Sleet has a beat, that kind of thing can happen as well, and then we can have regular old snowflakes too. So looking at the big picture of what's going on, this is a composite radar. So it's putting together all of the radars that are in the region and then kind of filling in the gaps where we aren't sure what's going on. So you'll see the difference when I walk you through these different radars. So here's our composite radar. It's showing a lot of blue, which would indicate a lot of snow, and then the mixed precipitation down in parts of Monroe and Blount and Sevier counties. When I change that to be focused more on our local radar, it goes away. And what that's telling you is that in the upper levels, maybe we're seeing some of that moisture, so the far away radars are picking up on it. But as you get closer to our location and the radar beam comes down in elevation, it's not picking up on that moisture. So what I'm trying to tell you is what you're seeing on the radar may not necessarily be reaching the ground at this point, but it's starting to move into the region, and that's key here. So looking up on the plateau in Fentress County and northwest Morgan County at this point, we're seeing some of those darker blues starting to show up. Your precipitation at onset may actually start with snowflakes, but then you're going to start to see maybe some of those sleet pellets or raindrops mixing in with that. This is why we're calling it a wintry mix, just broadly. A wintry mix as it moves into the area, starting to get into Scott County as well. Down into the Southern Valley, remember, this is elevated. If I switch radars on you here, look at how that changes. So really, Ray, Meigs, and McMinn counties are the counties that are most likely starting to see some of that precipitation. It might be reaching the ground at this point in those areas, and that darker purple that you see is indicative of the possibility of freezing rain. The peach would be the sleet side of things as well. So the bottom line is we've got mixed precipitation starting to move in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. It's not probably reaching the surface just yet, but as it starts to do that, the big question is, of course, what's it going to be? There's a lot of uncertainty with this vent because just a couple of degrees difference in that atmospheric profile from location to location is going to change the type of precipitation that you end up seeing. One model shows it kind of on and off as we go throughout the evening, filling in a little bit more after 7 p.m. tonight. Here's 9 p.m. with more widespread coverage of that precipitation. By midnight, it shows a lot of that moving out. One of our other models that we use shows a lot more of that pink on this graphic here, and much more widespread with that precipitation lasting past midnight and even into early tomorrow morning. I will say that I don't think either of these models is doing a great job on picking up the current conditions that we have at the surface with that very cold air, because with the snowpack on the ground, that's making the temperatures colder than what they would be without the snowpack, and the models don't pick up on that as well. We have a winter weather advisory in effect for our entire area starting at 7 p.m. tonight and lasting through 7 p.m. on Friday for the potential of hazardous travel conditions. If you get that sleet or that light snow with the cold ground temperatures or that freezing rain, either way, that wintry mix creates slick spots on the roads. The first places that are going to see those slick spots are bridges and overpasses because they're colder than the surrounding roads. They got that airflow underneath them, and with that cold air keeping the temperatures very cold, that's the first place that you would see any kind of accumulation, whether it's a glaze of ice, sleet pellets, or any light snowfall. TDOT is doing a fabulous job of pre-treating the roads or going to be putting down treatment as this event takes place. But you know what your local roads look like. Example, where I live, the road is still a packed glacier or it is slush with puddles in between. It's not going to get any better when this starts to move in. So if your local roads are already really slick or just slushy and kind of a mess, they're not going to get any better as we go through tonight and into the morning tomorrow. If you mainly will be traveling on the major roads like the interstates, keep in mind that the on and off ramps are where we could see some of those slick spots as well. And it's all going to depend on how much precipitation we end up seeing. Right now it looks like it's going to be relatively light, so that's helpful. But it's that ice that we're most concerned about, the potential for that freezing rain. You can see some of the pink spots showing up. Don't try to be like, well, it's here and not over here. It's so close, but it's not touching my area. There's a lot of uncertainty with this. The bottom line is that's why that winter weather advisory has been issued, is for the potential of those slick spots coming from either that light glaze of ice from freezing rain or sleet or light snow accumulations around the region. So if you don't have to be out after 7 p.m. tonight, I would highly recommend staying home. And if your roads are already a mess, by tomorrow morning they're not going to get any better. So just be prepared for that if you have to be out early tomorrow. If you can delay your departure out onto the roads, that would be best for tomorrow to give TDOT time to treat those major roads and see if we can see some improvement around the area. Again, this is going to be a very kind of location by location type of event. We're just able to give you the broad forecast and tell you what the impacts could be. Your specific location is maybe different than your friends that are just a couple miles away. As far as snowfall, this is not going to be a big snow event, but we will see things transition over whatever is left in the moisture category here. By the time we get into Friday morning, that will all transition over to snowflakes falling from the sky. And again, because the ground is so cold, we could see some light accumulations. In the valley, it would be less than half an inch. It probably would be a quick dusting, but because the ground is so cold, especially from Knoxville northeastward, whatever falls would stick. The plateau, maybe a half an inch to a full inch, depending on where the little snow bands do end up setting up if the moisture sticks around long enough. And of course, our mountain areas above 3,000 feet have the better chance of 2 to 4 inches of snow. Now let me give you a little bit of a quick explainer about when I'm talking about that cold air and that warm air riding up over it. This graphic kind of dictates the cold air that's in place. Picture that coming down the valley, and then here comes the warm air up the valley coming up from the southeast. That rides up and over the denser cold air, and then as the snowflakes fall through that warm air, depending on the depth of that warm air and how much cold air you have beneath it, that changes your precipitation type. So snowflakes melt, big layer of warm air, you end up with all rain at the surface. Where we've got those temperatures that are near freezing or colder, melt into liquid, super cooled liquid right at that little layer of cold air before it reaches the ground, and then we have that freezing rain, that coat of ice that can happen there. Sleet partially melts and then refreezes on its way back down. So that's why you have a sleet pellet and not a beautiful little snowflake coming down. If we could just have cold air from top to bottom, honestly, that would be our best option right now. We already have so much snow on the ground, but at least it makes it easier to know what precipitation type you're going to have. And again, a difference between sleet and freezing rain, because we're going to need your reports. If you tell us you've got ice, let us know what type of ice it is. Is it sleet? Is it putting down sprinkles, little ice pellets on your road or on your deck? Or is it freezing rain, a glaze of ice showing up on your surfaces out there. You got to let us know which type of ice you're ending up seeing. Freezing rain, way more slippery on the roads than sleet is, unless you get big accumulations of sleet, which we are not expecting this time around. The other part of the story, besides the precipitation that we're going to be seeing and potentially hazardous travel conditions, is the cold air that comes in on the backside. So our temperatures are pretty much going to hold steady as we go overnight tonight and into the first half of the day Friday. Then they're going to drop as colder air moves in. The Weather Prediction Center is already highlighting our area for this Saturday and Sunday for the potential of impactful cold temperatures. We've already had 3 days in a row with lows down into the single digits, and we're probably going to have a couple more as we go into Saturday and Sunday morning. That means whatever is liquid will be refreezing as we go into our Friday night into Saturday morning. Any melting you get again on Saturday afternoon, we refreeze again into Sunday morning. And we're going to do it again actually Sunday night into Monday morning. So there's a good chance if you still have a really big snowpack on your roadways and they're shaded and they're not going to get treated, you might still have some of that lingering around all the way into Monday morning, because again, we're going to do that thaw and then refreeze cycle Sunday night into Monday morning with lows again in the single digits and the teens. From there, we finally start to see things going up. And that means we'll go back above average with our temperatures, and with the next system that's coming in, we should be talking about rain and not a giant question mark about what type of precipitation we're going to be seeing. But the rest of the day today is a 10 weather impact day. Tomorrow is a 10 weather impact day. And then this weekend, you're going to need to drip your faucets and watch out for that black ice each and every morning along the way. Beyond that point, there is definitely a longer trend showing up of us having those above average temperatures through the final week of January. So that's good news there. First, though, we got to get through this event that we're seeing right now with that precipitation starting to move in. And again, we're starting to see it showing up on the radar, but not necessarily reaching the ground. This is where it gets really important and really helpful for you, the viewers, to let us know what you're seeing, because we can look at the radar, and the radar is doing its best to determine what it thinks it's seeing out there. But if you can just let us know, yes, I'm seeing precipitation and this is what it is, that would be great. Those are called ground truth observations, and that is super, super helpful to let us know that what we're seeing is what's actually happening out there. So again, tonight, winter weather advisory from 7 p.m. until 7 p.m. on Friday. The first places to get slick would be bridges and overpasses, on and off exit ramps, and obviously your local roads that are already slick and messy at this point. The major roads is going to depend on how intense the precipitation rates are. Again, if you don't have to be out this evening, it would be best just to stay off the roads until we start to see some improvement as we go through the day on Friday. So I hope that kind of covers what's going on with this event. This is our 5th impactful weather event that we've had so far this month. We know how you feel. For those of you who are tired of being stuck at home or just tired of active weather, we definitely understand how you feel. You got to hang in there just a little bit longer, and then we'll start to see things at least warming up as we go into next week. So stay safe out there. We'll have our newscast starting at 10 About Town at 4 p.m. We'll be on air until 6:30 p.m. for you, and then we'll check back in after that later this evening to let you know how things are developing and going around the area. So stay safe out there, folks, and we'll be back with more updates in a little bit.